You're listening to Edging the Truth.
Welcome to another episode of Edging the Truth. This is episode 17, and our topic for today is the Dottleston messages.
Wait. Didn't we already do that one? I feel like we're having deja vu here.
I think we did.
I think it, yeah. All right, I think we're on episode 18.
I think you're right.
This is episode 18, and we are talking about deja vu.
Brian,
And it's a very common occurrence, and I feel like most of us have had it before. I mean, I just had it right now with Red, but I mean, it's definitely an interesting theory that a lot of people have and that they experience, and different medical things have led people to have deja vu more than others. And I know, like for myself, like I've been clinically dead before, and so that's a different experience than most people have had. And I don't know that that's given me more apt to deja vu, but I definitely have had deja vu. And so I definitely want to go around the room. We want to talk about our experiences with deja vu, what we feel kind of leads us to think, is it a scientific thing? Is it just a mental thing? And where our kind of beliefs on it lie. And then just kind of get a feeling on whether or not it's a real thing. So I want to introduce everybody here. To my left, I've got Andy Hopper. Right above me, I got Red Raspus. And over in the corner over there is Brian Shenanigan. And so I think we'll just start with just kind of the ideas behind deja vu first off. So deja vu is a French word, just pretty much meaning already seen. I've already seen it. And so it's kind of like that moment when you've been like, wait a second, I've already been here. I've already felt this. And like for me, when I get deja vu, like I try to keep myself in that moment for as long as I can, because I want to be like, do I really know what's going to happen next? Can I really anticipate who's going to call, what they're going to say, and whatnot? And so it's always kind of a fun thing. And then there's kind of like a second part of deja vu, which is kind of like just a feeling of you've experienced this before, which is actually a different type of deja vu, which is, how do you say it, Red?
Jamais.
Jamais vu, which is pretty much just a feeling of, I've done this, I've been here before. And I think that's probably the most common form of deja vu, because a lot of people think that it's just your brain remembering like different sequences that you've been through so many times. But the deja vu that I kind of want to focus on for myself is really just that full-on experience of like, hey, I've been in this moment before, I've seen it, I know what's going to happen next. Because I've had some really eerie situations where I can actually tell, like, okay, the phone's going to ring, and the phone will ring. And it's a crazy thing. And then when you tell somebody about it, they're like, no, that didn't happen. That's not it. But I'm going to tell you, just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it's not true. And there's a lot of different things out there, especially like people that have gone or that have epilepsy or that have had seizures or been in comas. All three of those medical situations have led people to have more episodes of deja vu, we'll say. So it's interesting to hear. So I like to get everybody's opinion to see what they think, and we'll go from there. So Red, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I mean, I think it's fascinating that I think the number that I saw was that two-thirds of people claim to have experienced this that are not related to medical issues. I think that's amazing to me. I know me personally, I definitely experienced this many times, and whether it's being on a gig and having a conversation with somebody, or being on the way to someplace and feeling like, oh, I've made this drive with these things, looking at these things out the window in this order, and I've done this before, but not before. I'm feeling that it is that weird thing of like, I felt this before, but I know I haven't experienced it before, and now I am experiencing it. So it's like you said, it's like the train finally gets on its proper path. And how long can I stay in that groove where I'm feeling like it's happened before, and it's continuing to happen before it actually feels like it's something new and unknown. I find it fascinating, and I also it is a weird kind of like drug like uh feeling that you get from it too. Like, oh my God, what is that? Why do I feel like that? How do I feel like that again? Because you do feel like you're seeing into the future, or that you saw into the future somewhere in your past is really, I think, more accurate, right? Like that somewhere in the history of your brain, you had this experience that's in the future, and now that future is your present, and you're experiencing it in the moment. Um, that is completely strange to me. Um, but it's also like you said, I think I find the medical parts of this interesting. People who do experience epileptic seizures and things like that, but also uh, that sense of like going to somewhere familiar and having it not feel familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the opposite, right? Where it's like associated with amnesia and things like that, where people who have done, let's say they went to the same coffee shop every day for their entire lives, and then they go to let's go get some coffee, and you take them there, and they're like, wow, this place is really cool, I've never been here before. um my mom had Alzheimer's. I saw that many times.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. Actually, you've done this 1,000 times, but
51st dates all
yeah,
over
but
again.
that's not gonna matter. And so I figure if the brain can do all those kinds of things, then it can just as easily trick us a different way. Because I think it is a trick of the brain somehow. I'm not 100% convinced on how it does it, but it's the appearance of what we think it is, right? I didn't actually see into the future at some time in my past. It feels like that.
So let me
but I
ask
love
you
that feeling. I love that feeling.
But
Let me ask you a
didn't
question.
Didn't you? Aren't you a gypsy fortune teller?
So I'm gonna ask you this question, Red, but then as we go around the horn,
Yeah.
I'll let everybody else answer as well. Whenever you've had one of these deja vu moments, has it ever lasted longer than a few seconds for you?
I feel like the longest I've ever been able to hang on to it is less than a minute, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds.
That's a
maybe.
pretty long time, though, honestly.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
trying to just
Stay in it.
stay in it. Maybe that's just the amount of time it takes me to realize I'm in that moment too. Sometimes it's like you're 5 to 10 to 15 seconds into something happening in it, and then you have that feeling of deja vu.
Yeah.
Rather than like a precognition. It's not Minority Report, right? It's not where we're seeing the future and we get a glimpse of it and then we respond to it separately. It's the same. They're happening at the same time. So
Man, great. Let's go over to Andy here. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, deja vu. I think Brian said it before we started. He was like, "Is this really a conspiracy theory?" No, I don't think it is. But it is an interesting topic because I feel like it's something that quite a few people can relate with. I think it's pretty interesting. At you just looking at it as a whole, I think one thing you guys haven't really talked about yet that was interesting to me was the way some of the like psychologists and other people that study the brain, figured out, how the brain responds to certain things, like what parts of the brain are eliciting these reactions. Like, is it the frontal cortex? Is it the amygdala? Is it left or right? All these different things. And I mean, person to person could be different on how each and everybody's brain functions and percepts what is reality, what's not, what's happened, what hasn't. I'd say personally, I feel like I don't know if I would say that I get deja vu like a lot, but I can definitely say it's happened before. I can definitely say that I felt like I've done things before. Even sometimes I feel like I've dreamt shit that I feel like has came true, like, or came to fruition weeks later. I don't know if I can specifically remember something off the top of my head, but I think One Lung talked about it. Red, I think you said something too, but it's the feeling you get where you're just like, all right, where do I know this from? Like, what is this? I thought one of the interesting studies from one of the videos that we had posted in the Discord I think it was a study at St. Andrews in Scotland. This might be the wrong.
That's right.
But anyway, this professor was, testing out this theory or trying to trigger deja vu, because there's really not a great way to like trigger it and kind of prove that it's real, I guess. So anyway, he was going over, he was with a group of students, and he was like, I'm going to show you some images of these different locations, and you're going to tell me if you recognize them, if you've seen them before, if they mean anything to you, knowing going in that his students had not been to any of these places. I guess like right before the PowerPoint or the reel started, a few of the images he was about to show, like in the reel, flashed up for like 10 milliseconds or something like that. And that was enough for some of his students to be like, oh yeah, no, I recognize that. I know that from somewhere. So it's just crazy, I guess. Something I really took away, Lando. Something I really took away from it was just like, I guess I don't really think about or realize like how quickly like our brains like take information or notice things, and they're immediately like go into your subconscious, or you're just subconsciously noticing things. Like they had talked about, imagine you're walking into a bar or something for the first time, but you're also talking to your friend as you're walking in, so you're not really paying attention to your surroundings or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but deja vu, I'm in. I think it's real. I think it's happened to me. There was a bunch of other French words and other, like, I didn't know that there was like the jamais vu and voulez-vous coucher avec moi. Brian knows what I'm talking about. Brian definitely knows what I'm talking about. Also, Brian looks like the highest person on the planet. I started laughing during the intro, not because your little bit, not because it was funny, because I looked up at Brian and he looked like he didn't even know where he was right now. And
we know this guy is burning the candle from both ends.
Can I say I've been locked in on you serving beer over ice for the last night. You don't even know. I'm like, this guy's just straight icing it over here. He's fucking hot canning it right now.
Well, yeah. So over the weekend, I may or may not have left my fucking beers in my trunk. I realized that today when I was leaving work. And so I didn't have a lot of time to cool my beers down when I got home. I threw a bunch of them in the freezer. Didn't really do a lot of, because I get off at 7. We were supposed to record at 8.
That's not gonna get a beer.
So I'm like, fuck it. I'm pulling an old person move. I'm getting some ice for my beer, and I'm chilling my glass, and I'm fucking having my Busch Light like a classy motherfucking broad.
You are a classy lady.
I know, dude. But anyway, yeah, deja vu. I'm in. I've definitely experienced it before. I wouldn't say that I remember specific happenings of it, but I don't know. I think read the like 30 to 40 seconds. That sounded wild. That sounds like a long time. But anyway, I'll kick it back to you, Wanlung.
Well, I think that your comment about like the images showing up are really interesting, because that's how subliminal messaging is so successful, and that's why they ban that, because it just takes that millisecond for your brain to compute those images and to really take in that message. And so that's interesting you say that. And it's interesting that would kick off deja vu for a certain number of those students. So that's a great point. We'll take it over to Negative Nancy up here. Brian, what do you think about deja vu?
Am I supposed to be negative about deja vu? Am I just supposed to go
It's up
hard?
to you.
Oh yeah,
Maybe you're gonna
Crazy. This is ludicrous.
maybe you're
We're
gonna kick it
talking
the other way
French
this time.
words. Your fancy Frenchness. No, I'm just gonna start with the brain be crazy. Okay, like your brain like does stuff. There are institutions full of people that's brain be crazy. All right, like I mean for real. Like, but I mean even just the fact that in general, like, just memories get skewed. I mean, as you remember stuff that, like, sometimes your brain fills in stuff that didn't happen, where you're like, oh, I went to that concert, they did this, and then, like, you go back and watch a video of it, and you're like, where did they do this? They didn't do that. I thought they played that song. I thought they did this thing. I mean, that's happened a lot where I mean, it always happens at high school reunions. People go back and like, remember so and so, and you did this. And I'm like, no, I didn't do that at all. That wasn't me. So I mean, that's.
Well,
I mean,
you
it's just
always
so,
love to have plausible deniability, Brian.
Well, but it's still so your memories can be skewed. So things that you think that you thought, just weren't it, and that's just every human being. That's just the human condition. I mean, but I think that a lot of deja vu, it's different things. I mean, it could be relived memories where it's like you've been. Man, I think sometimes we all get deja vu at work. It's like, fuck, am I here doing this again? Like it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I hear that.
That's the whole thing. But it's all, then there's the flip side of it where it's like where some people, like, if you like say like the dice are gonna roll or it's gonna land on red or something like that, it's like, is that deja vu or is that just just luck and stuff lining up? I mean, I guess luck is a whole other episode by itself, but I mean, it's just when people call their shot and their shot happens, it's like, oh damn, like.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, even the other day with One Lung, we bet on some darts and we won every single match but one. I mean, you shot your shot, and that was like a 98% fucking correct thing. And it was that, you knew that shit. But I think, especially for me, that I had deja. I'm a believer in deja vu. I've had deja vu many a times. I believe a lot of it more comes from the deja vu I've had is stuff I felt like was in dreams and stuff, like it was recently, especially this goes back to your question, One Lung, about like the longest you've had deja vu. I get some sustained deja vu on stuff. Like I'm talking minutes. Yeah. So I will give you the most recent story. It's fresh. I was at the wedding. We were at the wedding like a week ago or whatever, where I had that, the good prime rib, those crab cakes. That's never neither here nor there. Where a couple of old ladies grabbed my junk on the dance floor, whether I wanted them to or not. I mean, it was a whole scene.
You wanted them to.
There was a time when I was sitting next to the dance floor, like with Robin, and like full fucking deja vu. Like that I had a dream that we were in this exact situation, the dance floor, the people on it, the song that was playing, everything like triggered like, oh, like this is deja vu. But in the dream I had, shit went really bad. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, so like, I have a lot of deja vu incidents where it's like, I'm waiting for the turn where I'm like, I know I've seen this before and something bad happened. Yep. So I'm in the middle of this wedding. I get this deja vu feeling and like, it legit created kind of a sense of dread where I was like, oh shit, is something bad about to happen right now? Cause like I mean, I was just like, I know I dreamt about this. I know I've, seen this before or heard this song. Like everything lined up. And honestly, there was like a 5-minute period where I had like some good anxiety that some shit was about to go down because I felt like that, like deja vu of like something was going to happen. And that did trigger a real anxiety response because that dream that I had in this situation, like I said, things went sideways in that dream, and it was one of those ones where shit goes so bad you wake up and you remember the dream because that shit went so bad. Like that was like that dream, and so like I said, it was definitely I get those every now and then, and but also on the flip side, and I'm gonna throw this out to the totally other end, is just like when you're stoned, man, you get a lot more deja vu.
Well, that is something about that, but specifically you talked about in the Wikipedia article about deja vu is that chemical interactions of certain kinds can cause severe feelings of deja vu. What was the story? Is of a guy that like had it for a whole month, like every day he had like intense feelings of deja vu for a month. That's weird. But back to what like you were saying, Brian, with the dream thing, because I don't know about you guys, but I smoke a fair amount of weed. I don't remember a lot of my dreams anymore, and I think that's part of what's interesting to me about deja vu is that it does feel like it relates to a dream, but it relates to a dream I can't remember the details of or remember when I had it. So there is still that feeling of reliving a moment that you've already had because dreams are so intense, and even if you don't imprint the details, you still get that feeling.
Because even that dream I had it like in the start of my COVID times. So my week 1 sick of COVID is when I had this dream. I guess because I couldn't really smoke anything from that. I was doing some edibles, but I was still having some. And with all the COVID medication, all that shit, I was having some crazy ass dreams,
fever dreams.
But then for it basically to be, a month later at this wedding, there's the situation I literally just had a very fucking vivid dream about, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, is that deja vu? I mean, I don't know. Is
that's almost like prophecy, though?
Should I start solving crimes?
Yeah,
like, I don't know. So
does COVID give you powers to see the
does
future?
COVID give you powers to see the future?
Are you a fortune teller now?
Looking at this all wrong. Everybody should get COVID for future sight.
At least Swami Brian.
So, a couple things that are interesting here. I'm surprised that nobody brought up the idea of like a Wrinkle in Time, or
the Matrix.
dimensions, a Matrix.
I thought
I'm
so.
so-
Its own section.
Yeah, dude, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Brian didn't open with a deja vu joke, like, "Oh, I thought we were talking about Denzel."
There
we
we
were
go.
talking about the strip club chain that's all over America.
I was
Deja
gonna
Oh,
say,
yeah, there's
my
a deja
only
vu.
It's the first strip club I went to was
Yeah.
a deja vu.
That's the
There's a
first strip club I
deja
went to. I
vu
still got the
in
cup.
Springfield,
deja vu.
Illinois, where I was born, that is less than 5 minutes away from my grandparents' house. I drive by it
Uh-huh.
every time I go to their house.
And you always
And
get deja vu when you go in there because you're
they
like,
all-
"Is he
well, they
18?"
have-
Or is that not deja vu?
No, they're all. They always have something funny on their little video board.
Oh yes,
Always.
there's a place that it wasn't a strip club. It was like one of those booth places, right in downtown Seattle. Pretty shady. Lasted forever, like up until very recently, called the Lusty Lady, and the Lusty Lady had a big reader board right in the middle of downtown, and they always had.
Well, I'm gonna go out on a
great
limb here
stuff.
as a good Christian boy. What is one of these booth places? What
Oh,
are you
booth
talking
place.
about?
A
It's
booth
an adult
place.
arcade, my friend.
It's
They
Like
don't
an,
have video
it's like
games
an
in there.
adult arcade. You go
Oh,
into
arcade.
a little. There's basically the way that it's set up is there's
Dude,
like
one
a
lung.
room,
You don't
and
know
there's
what this
little
is
booths.
because we're not fucking 100 years old like they are.
Yeah, there's that too. I don't even know if they have places like this anymore. It's like
No.
yeah. Oh, they do in Vegas. I bet. Yeah.
I mean,
So,
most
yeah.
places have your adult bookstore, and they have
Wait.
the booths in the back where they play the videos. You throw.
So
a
wait, you
buck
just
in.
go in there and play adult video games?
No. It was live.
I
It's a booth.
honestly, my whole
So-
life, I thought it was adult video games. Like you played in there.
I
and the
love
characters
that I
were
get
just
to
nude.
explain this.
But yeah, no, it's not. It is like you go in and you throw a buck in and you watch porn movies. Like it's before the internet. That shit was like everywhere.
Why would you want to do
That's
that?
not what. That's not the place
people
the Lusty
fucking go in
Lady
there
was.
and
No,
spank it,
that
bro.
he's
Yeah, no,
talking
the Lusty
about
Lady was
a
with
lady
live
in a
sex.
fucking booth.
Oh well, yeah. They a peep show is told. The
It's a
COVID
peep
killed the
show.
peep show. They didn't even kill the ones in Vegas.
Yeah.
Where
Those
you
sound
can go
disgusting.
in and do with the fucking.
Yeah.
you see.
It's
you
really
see on,
weird
like,
because
TV,
it's
like
just a glass room and
where
you can
the
actually.
window goes up and there's a chick on the
Yes.
other side and you throw dollars at her and she dances. I mean,
Yeah, there's a great Tosh joke about it where he went into one of those, and the lady comes up to the glass, she's like, shows her pussy, and she's like, "For $1 you can lick this."
Oh, God.
yeah.
It is.
Exactly that.
Very. You definitely feel degenerate.
Yeah, when I was in San Francisco, there was one right next door to the bar I worked at, and the chicks that worked in there were pretty smoking, but they would do a lot for $1.
Well,
Yeah,
for once,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not getting deja vu from this conversation.
No,
We're gonna move it along.
You have not lived a lusty life. Such
Sorry,
as
that was the
myself.
horny part of the podcast.
Sorry, I live a
I'm just
crazy
happy I got
life.
to
I've
contribute to it
experienced
for a
things.
change.
I've dated women that like to go to those places.
So there's several different reasons why deja vu may happen, right? And a lot of it has to do, if you're a scientist, they believe, like Brian said, your brain does a lot of crazy things. So it could be your brain just, rapid firing and you just got a feeling that things are happening again. But then there's some maybe not so scientific reasons. One thing, some people believe that it's your guardian angel being a few seconds ahead of you, and you catching up to that moment. Or like my favorite example is like and I told Red this the other day. For me, it feels like I'm watching a video that's buffering, and so like I replays the 20 seconds, and once the video catches up, we're back onto progress, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of people that believe that it's you know, we have different what's the word I'm looking for?
Probably you know.
No.
Deja vu. I'm gonna throw
No,
it to
Right.
no. I just said the word like 5 seconds ago. My brain's going crazy.
Doodles messages.
No, oh my goodness.
Does it have to do with the strip club?
Is it ham?
No. Has to do with like the world's being like several different planes, you know.
Multiverse?
Yeah, kind of like a multiverse, but there's another word
Planes
for it.
in
Anyway.
existence?
Consciousness and stuff.
Dimensions?
Yeah, different dimensions. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And
We got there.
so, yeah, we got there eventually. And that, you know, it's just the different dimensions that are, you know, collapsing together where maybe Brian in that wedding situation, one of the other dimensions, it did go bad, you know, and that in this dimension, it was all right, you know?
Well, because like I said,
Um,
Robin was in that dream and things went bad with me and her and some other women in that thing. And I was like, oh shit, like, is it about to go down? Is my girl about to throw hands? Like, am I going to have
Damn,
to
you're
like,
about to get
fight
beat up by a
somebody?
bunch of women, Brian?
And this is the
did
time
get
that I wish
assaulted
that
by
this
a
dimension
lot of
was
older
that
women.
dimension so we could hear that story. Or is
Well,
it
what
glitch in the
about-
Matrix?
What about those people that like believe like, you know, that your life is predestined and you're just walking the path that was set out for you
Yeah.
from the day you were born? I think that you could, you know, for people that have those kinds of beliefs, deja vu is just you're just getting a glimpse of that line that's already in existence through history, through, you know, moving forward. You're just getting you're just getting it in the wrong order of time. But it was always going to happen. That
Well-
you were always going to have this moment.
Yeah.
And I think, what was that movie we just watched? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I mean, that whole movie,
Oh,
the
yeah.
premise was if you make one different choice, your life spirals off into such a different path, you know. And I feel like that is almost kind of similar to deja vu. It's like, oh, you know, if I do this, all of a sudden my life did this, and I have this skill. I mean, honestly, I feel like that movie was a little bit better than Marvel at explaining the multiverse.
Yeah.
That was a
Well,
great flick.
and
I mean,
what's
that made me emotional. That was a good movie.
What's the other thing with your brain where like it's like it's not like a mass it's called the Mandela effect, where people misremember you know, things collectively as a certain way and when it wasn't actually true. I just stumbled back on this idea because it was about, of all the stupidest things, a line that Indiana Jones used to say in the fucking ride at Disneyland. There was like you know, popped up in my news feed of like people misremembering what he says about snakes because of how he says it in the movie. They all think that he said it a certain way in the ride, but he never actually did say it that certain way. Or the Luke, I am your father, or is it no Luke, I am your father, or, you know, like what is the
about-
way? How did he say it? You know?
What about do you remember that? You guys remember the Berenstein Bears?
Uh-huh.
Do you guys remember that theory that like everybody thought it was spelled one way, but it was actually spelled
It's actually Stain.
yeah, the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whoa.
again, like
That's
your
yeah.
brain. That's
This guy
and that's
just pulled
not
out
dozens
Berenstein
of
Bears on
people
us.
or hundreds of people. That's probably thousands of people affected
Mm-hmm.
by that, right?
So I think my personal favorite belief is that we do kind of have different planes, you know. I think that there are multi dimensions, and you know, maybe that is the way that it is, and that is kind of a fun thing that I think about. I don't know that there's any way to prove that or not, but it's fun for me to think about that, and that's the reason why
There's
deja vu
another-
happens. But do you guys have a favorite theory about deja vu?
I mean, I love the ultra quantum mechanics kind of idea. You know, the quantum theory says that in this universe, if X happens, then in another universe, the other options
Yeah.
are all happening, right?
Yeah,
That-
that's what
that- Right.
That's
That
it.
if I go out the door, that there's all this myriad of possibilities of what might happen, and whatever happens in this universe, well, there are other universes, dimensions, layers,
with
whatever.
all the other options.
Right. And
Right,
I feel like that's the closest to like being a fun answer that I want to believe in. I think.
Yes.
Because that at least leads into science, a proper scientific theory that does
Science.
have logic that we do all believe in and all that stuff, and yet it still kind of leans on the metaphysical bullshit of it that's fun.
So if we go off that theory, that means there is another dimension where Red Rasmus has hair.
Yes.
Brian hates Korean barbecue.
Yes.
One lung
That's not
has
true in any dimension.
one lung has 3 lungs. He
Yep,
has an
yep.
extra one this
You got a
time.
bonus one.
I have no kids, and
And you don't drink.
yeah, and I don't, and I don't.
And right
drink.
now you're on a Mormon retreat somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
what would
I'm,
be
I'm completely sober. I've never touched marijuana in my life.
The devil's
The
lettuce.
marijuana.
That's the
That's
best
not
part.
for you.
Isn't that like one of the all-time great Star Trek episodes though, where like the alternate universe versions of our favorite characters have to go up against each other, right? Like it's the evil Spock and the evil Kirk, and Spock's got the crazy goatee, and you're like, oh yeah, there could be a version where he exists like that.
And has a goatee.
Yeah, I find that much more fun and interesting. Then I actually like experience the future. I don't believe that's possible.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think that a lot of deja vu too is like a lot of our topics. It's just more of like a thing where people are putting a name to that feeling, just because there are so many pop culture things like The Matrix and all these movies. I mean, even the Butterfly Effect is a movie as well as a theory. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of this stuff it's just whether we like it or not, it's just kind of ingrained in our pop culture that we just put this label on a lot of stuff just because it's like, oh, I don't know what that feels. Deja vu. It must be deja vu. It's just a weird head change. Oh, that's deja vu. Not like your sugar's low. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
and again, like I was saying in the beginning, like a lot of times what people are calling deja vu is actually jamais vu, where it's just like an eerie feeling, but they just say, oh, it's deja vu because I feel weird about it.
Because they don't know those other words.
Exactly. They don't know it. Man, so I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
deja vu is good.
it's just not it's still I feel like a modern construct. I don't feel like that people were walking around in like the 1800s going deja vu. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it because I couldn't find anything in the entomology or like the origins of this. Like,
It was
name.
a French guy. It was a French psychologist or something coined the term.
And what do we have a year on that?
Let me see what I can find.
It was early.
But the point is, it's still in modern times. It's still more of a like cavemen weren't going around like deja vu, like it's still just more of a. I mean, even in like wagon trains, I don't think they were deja vuing it. You know what I'm saying? People just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, right.
1903.
Maybe
Yeah,
they
that's
were,
still-
maybe
that's
they
still
were,
just
but they didn't have a
Modern,
name
if you
for
will,
it.
modern medicine.
But yeah, I mean, but do I believe in it? Yeah. Have I feel like I've experienced it? Yeah. And
I think-
sometimes intensely, and sometimes passing, and sometimes on drugs of assorted levels, and sometimes not. So it kind of is what it is. Because man, you take some mushrooms, you have a deja vu for 4 or 5 hours. So it's
And at the same time, don't you think that people? I want my brain wants to say that it seems like it's more often than not it's women as opposed to men that seem to say deja vu a lot. Do you ever have any friends like that? That
yeah,
just
they're the same
upset,
ones that like to charge the crystals by the moonlight and make
Yes,
those kind
yes.
of things. Like astrology people are really into deja vu.
Yes. I feel like you can predispose yourself to this feeling in a way.
I want to kick it over to Andy. What were you going to say, Andy?
I'm just kind of going to piggyback off of what you said earlier and go from what Brian said about a modern construct. I think yes, but I also think One Lung said it like in his opening. It is a mental thing, I think, more than anything, rather than, I don't know, a construct. I guess it's a mental construct, but it's just interesting because there are different ways you can experience it. There's different ways everybody's brain works, everybody's brain processes things. Yeah, but I think we're all in agreement here. This has all happened to us here. I think if you'd survey, 8 out of 10 people would probably say that they've experienced it before. I think it was cool learning about the severity of which it can happen, which I hope never happens to me, but the guy for a month straight that was experiencing it, or I guess Red fucking experiencing shit for like 40 seconds. Brian over here 4 or 5 hours, just again the theme of the episode, not knowing where the fuck he's at. But no,
somewhere in this room,
somewhere here. But I think we're pretty much at a stopping point. We're ready to sell out,
like I
do our plugs, and
Yeah. The last thing I just want to say is that Deja Vu, I don't want anybody to get confused with us believing or not believing in somebody being able to see the future, tell the future.
Except for Brian.
Completely different topic. This is just specifically you feeling like you've been in a moment that has already happened before. And I think that for that, it's hard to say that nobody has or hasn't, you know? So I personally have. And like I said earlier, like my experience, just because you may not have experienced it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I feel like in our group here, we're at 100%. We all experience it. So, and I just think it's very interesting. So, but that's pretty much all we have for this episode. Andy, where can people find us?
www.edgingthetruth.com. It's got little bios for each one of us, ways to follow us individually. It's got all of our episodes you can watch or listen straight from our website. Make sure you hit up our merch. You can go to shop.edgingthetruth.com. Takes you directly to the store, or you can find it in our drop-down page on the main website. We've got t-shirts, we've got hats, we have mouse pads. We're always coming up with new ideas for merch. I know Red's already talked about a couple things he kind of has in the works, stuff he wants to do. We've got Ouija board designs. We've got this alien and Bigfoot design spawned from one of Brian's early...
They're both aliens. That's just an alien shirt.
Yeah, it's an alien shirt.
That's a shirt depicting aliens.
Red's got our OG Edging the Truth shirt on, the classic just logo shirt. We've got some awesome tie-dyes on there. Like I said, the Ouija board shirt, mouse pad, this hat that I'm wearing that you can't see the front of, but it's got... Just go to this website, edgingthetruth.com. And all of this could be yours. Make sure you hit us up on YouTube, like and subscribe, comment on the video, tell us what you want to hear next. Also, although we do have our next episode planned out, we're going to be joined by my very good friend, one of my best friends in the world, Trey Smith, will be joining the podcast to discuss his one of the topics from his voicemail from a couple weeks ago. We're talking astrology and zodiac signs and all that shit. So we're gonna dive into that. Follow us on Twitter at Edging the Truth. We're also at Edging the Truth on Instagram and Facebook. Tell a friend who tells a friend. Keep the word of mouth going. We want to keep this going. We want to get big. We're going to sell out even more. Speaking of selling out, Red, tell them a little bit about our friends over at Audible.
Yeah, absolutely. We have kind of our first podcast sponsor, if you will. Audible is willing to give you a free audiobook by clicking the link in the description below. If you're watching this on YouTube or checking us out on our website, there's a link right on the homepage. And thanks to them, you can just go in and pick any book that you like. You can pick out a book on Deja Vu. You can pick out any kind of book. They've got books on nonfiction topics, fiction topics, you name it. But use our link and you will get a free book and a free month at Audible.
And if you want to give us a call and tell us about your experience with Deja Vu or any of the other topics that you want to talk to us about, give us a call, 917-979-6071, and you could be a future guest with us.
Yeah, adult bookstores, peep shows, whatever you want to talk about. Just we're talking about conspiracies, about all that stuff.
Silly bastard.
Silly.
I love
but this has been
explaining what.
And also, I would say I'd like Liquid Death. Please sponsor us, and also Fudge. I think you want
Bush Light. Come on,
Bush
come home, baby. Also, come home.
Weed. Could you sponsor us? Weed, please.
Red Bull. I could
please
use a case.
I'll just take some oxygen.
Needs oxygen machine. So if you could sponsor us, oxygen machine people, that'd be very helpful. Fuck his insurance. We just need to get that man a machine.
But this has been episode 18 of Edging the Truth, Deja Vu. I want to thank Andy Hopper, Red Rasmus, Brian Shenanigan. I'm One Lung. We're out. See you guys next time.
Penis.
Dong.
Visit edgingthetruth.com for more information and links to all our social media and podcast directories.